Easy breezy, ladies, gentlemen, and ladies. Welcome to Warui Deshou's Stream of Thought. And tonight we're going to be covering episode 5 of Keep Your Hands Off the Eizouken. Don't worry, Gasso, Mr. Robosso, got to get that out of the way given the theme of the episode.
I really dropped the ball there, not coming back at you with a robot reference of my own.
Damn it.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. There's one.
That's all that robot was ever good for. Let's be honest, though. Wait
a minute. Am I mixing up the voices? He might have been more of a deep voice robot, and I was doing like Alpha from Power Ranger.
Also equally useless.
Definitely. Zordon, the Rangers, retrieve them. Like that's all he was ever good for.
Christ.
Yeah, but I think the Lost in Space robot was more like danger, Will Robinson, danger. Like more.
Well, Screw Attack have got themselves
vacuum arms.
Death battle, I suppose. Anyway, yes, welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about Eizouken episode 5 today. I'm Shane, joining me from across the pond, but close to that is the Soul Doctor. I tend to think on display he's actually above me, although technically he's also this direction, I think, if I remember my compass points accurately. So we'll be getting to that pretty soon. But first off, I think we're going to talk about polls from last time, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Doc?
You are correct. We're going to talk about polls and then briefly mention the episode director. Once again, Sakuga blog slacking, not having production notes.
you're not endearing us to those people.
I kid. I mean, if that's not obvious, it's a joke, right? Like that they do such hard work. I imagine it takes a really long time to gather a lot of the stuff that they compile, honestly. But so yeah, Twitter polls. You're quite right. So we do these polls every Stream of Thought. At Warui Deshou on Twitter to participate if you'd like to vote. We put them up during the show, so there'll be new ones up this week. And then we wait for the week to go by and read the final tally at the beginning of the next week. These are still, because I think we might have recorded on, did we stream on Tuesday last week? I don't recall, but either way.
I don't remember what happened earlier this morning. So I think that's a bit beyond me right now, to be quite honest. I'm sure it'll come to me much later after the stream's over. It isn't no longer of any use to or import to us.
Regardless of why, the current polls are still up. So you can vote on them for at least a little bit. I don't know when exactly they're closing, but it says they have 1 day left. I don't know if that means like a number of hours. I don't know how.
If you're in Iowa, this is the second most important vote you'll do today.
Here.
Oh, timely political jokes. I love them. They're great. Yeah, but go out and fucking vote.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Bernie, 2020, baby.
Easy.
Eizouken, episode 4, poll number 1. Have you ever had a face like Asakusa's after she wakes up and comes out from under her desk?
Right now. I don't have hair mainly, but I've substituted a hat just because I'm not haggard.
Well, the winner so far, the one leading the race is Everyday ending in Y with half the votes, 50%. And
I feel you all. I really do.
I know. And then so like the other two splitting votes are it happened for sure, like as in once maybe. And then sleep is for the weak. The old NOS there, I don't sleep because sleep is the cousin of death. That is an unhealthy way to approach your life. Don't do it. Eizouken, episode 4, poll number 2. Have you ever done a group project that evoke the same kind of frustrations and collective decision-making process and pragmatism shown in this episode? Yes is taking it right now in a 75-25 split. And
I actually feel very jealous of the 25ers in here. Because like I say, I've done some group projects in my time where you have that one fucking guy, and he's just there like, it's okay, I'll contribute eventually when the heat death of the universe happens.
Sometimes
it might be a while.
Sometimes it's been that one gal, but most of the time it's been that one guy, in my experience. I can't say it's never been that one gal. It has been a gal before. But
is being useless a gender in of itself? Like that one useless?
Exactly. This is an equal opportunity uselessness.
Yeah, we'll call you shit, whatever you might call you, yourself. Just saying.
Poll 3. Do you feel the show does a good job of educating the audience on various methods and techniques of animation, or at the very least works to help get people thinking about it? Now, as I said last week, we've done this poll before, I know. But currently,
it was so nice. We had to do it twice.
Exactly, worth revisiting. It is a landslide 100% vote.
There you go.
In favor of yes. There have been a couple of those 100%s. I feel, or at least landslide polls this season.
We really need a klaxon of some description. What I need to get like a police siren on top of my shelves behind there. Every time we get a 100%, I just need to play it.
We need to have a sound effect.
Or have a balloon just come like from the sky. It has like 100 on it.
If one of us had a mixer, we used to do sound effects on Stream of Thought, but unfortunately Shadon couldn't hear them. So only you, listeners, and myself got to enjoy the joke, and I
had to just imagine it.
Exactly, you had to listen back if you wanted to know. But if we had a mixer, maybe one day we'll have a mixer. So poll 4: if you were the budget committee, would you have approved the carbohydrates amoeba project? It's like a Metal Gear thing, the carbohydrate amoeba.
Exactly.
Amoeba.
Carbohydrate.
Can carbohydrates bloom on the battlefield?
Snake, look out! Snake! It's a giant amoeba!
It's feeding you biscuits.
I'm the amoeba!
Who is that supposed to be?
Snake. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Believe me, actually, now that you've brought that up, Metal Gear, though, that's not going to be the last time I'll reference Metal Gear today, trust me, for what I hope will be obvious reasons.
Very good. So the results are lol no is leading 70-30. Not quite exactly 70-30, like a few, point. It's like 70.6 to 29.4. So yes, 70-30. Carbs for all losing. So I think we have a reasonable electorate. I think we
all know how the T virus came about, so let's not let it happen,
Exactly.
That's how this shit starts, You start with a science project where you just want to make carbohydrates out of amoebas, and the next thing you know, you've got patient 0 walking out your front door, and that's it. It's 28 days later.
The human race is done. Actually, what? I've changed my vote. Approve the carbohydrates project.
Wow, you're very nihilistic. Since when did you become like the new Nostradamus? You're not willing to wait anymore.
Let's wipe the slate clean on the planet and give it another go. Only Warui Deshou listeners can. I can't even say the name of our fucking podcast right. It's a Monday. Warui Deshou, I said. Only Warui Deshou listeners get to remain to.
I can't believe you're trying to save scum the human race. Thanks, Doc. Thanks a bunch.
Poll 5. Is ramen and rice an acceptable nutritional combination? No, it's criminal. Winning 80-20. How do you feel about ramen and rice?
I like them individually, but you don't mix them. You don't put ice cream on pizza. Or pineapple, for that matter. And yeah, I will fight people on that. I don't care what your gastronomy degree says. You fucking put pineapple. Right, anyway, no. But no.
I mean, you can, but why would
you? Thank you. So, yes, you know what? Don't combine those two things. Keep them separate. Rice its own, great. Ramen its own, great. Put them together, it's just a mess. It's a mess. Why would you do that? So, and again, that's coming from the club that's like trying to start the T virus, so... Maybe they shouldn't be trusted to begin with,
So I think this is a trick question, right? I mean, or at least, so is it an acceptable nutritional combination? No, from a nutritional point of view, it's terrible for you. But will it make you feel good in the moment that you're eating it? Hell yeah, it'd be great.
The only thing it'll make me feel is a certain amount of questioning my life choices.
You don't have to mix them together. You could just eat a bowl of noodles and then eat a side of rice. And you'd be, proper. You'd be solid.
But why? Why would
you want
this?
both? Maybe they just... But...
Are the lunatics running the asylum these days? What's going on?
It tastes fine.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen some shit, but I didn't realize we'd gone this low.
I'm not saying that they should be given a budget for this in high school. This immediate
what for biogenetic engineering?
Yeah. I'm just saying sometimes you want to eat a little rice after you have your noodle, and it's okay. It's all right. Honey on
Well,
pizza. You know what? That actually. So Cesar poses a Sophie's choice of honey on pizza or ketchup on cheesecake. I feel like the latter sounds way worse because honey on pizza actually, that actually doesn't sound awful. I feel like a lot of the sauces people dip pizzas in are honey based, like honey's like spicy kind of things.
The only thing I want to taste of right now is the sweet release of death. Thinking about that choice. Ugh.
Why is Yukinon bringing up 02?
Because it's me. Because he's trying to set me off.
He loves to wind you up.
I know him too well. Unfortunately,
he'll
get yours someday.
Our resident artist. We have many artists actually and animators in chat lately, but Yukinon was the first to do that wonderful Promised Neverland fan art. That if you haven't seen, I guess you could just scroll back in the Twitter as the only way to like surface that. But you should do if you haven't seen it because it was glorious. The ski free, just a classic Warui Deshou moment. But anyway, enough. Nostalgia for my own podcast. So before we get into talking about the episode, what is the title of it? An Iron Giant appears.
No relation, unfortunately, to the Brad Bird film of the same name,
right.
which is in itself is a legitimately brilliant film, by the way. I get the feeling that Masaki Yuasa would appreciate that immensely.
Would it surprise you if I said the words "I haven't seen it"? Because I haven't seen the Iron Giant.
No, actually, it doesn't, because you and I have had this very discussion in the past. So I'm glad I remembered that, because there was going to be a lot of like smashing and the swearing and the violence.
When did it? Can you Google for me when that came out? When did the Iron Giant occur?
90s? I don't know. I think it was like 1998. I could be wrong on that.
Okay, so did you see it when it first came out, or did you come to it later? Okay, so
I came to it much later. I actually watched it like with a proper mindset the first time last year.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Great anti-war, great anti-hysteria film. Well animated, very funny in its own right. Great stuff. I loved it.
So I need to get around to it, but I think
and many other things.
Well, of course.
Who am I to complain about?
No. Okay. So you also just got around to it. So you can't you can't bother me about this one. You just got around to it yourself.
Fine.
Do note that it was 1998. So I was 14 years old. That is right around the age when cartoons, not anime, because I was discovering anime and how great it was. But it wasn't for kids. It wasn't kid stuff. It was mature adult shit, man. It was bloody and sexual. But cartoons, I was too cool for, Fuck all that. I don't need that.
Did you just puff your collar up while you said that?
That was my attitude when I was a young lad of 14. That I was very moody and disaffected and too cool for animations that were made in this country. God
damn it. I mean, all I'm going to say now is if you pop your collar, if you start popping your collar anymore on this, I'm going to start, whipping out the vodka.
I might have to do it to induce the vodka whip out then.
Oh my God, you're all going to be the death of me. Anyway, let's carry on. So that's, I believe, is the end of the polls. Thank you very much for everyone who contributes to those. We'll put up a brand new set today. In the meantime, Doc, if you'd like to tell us about the crazies behind this particular episode.
Indeed. There won't be much to say, as with last week as well, I believe, because Wikipedia has the episode director pegged as Satoshi Ifuku. And if you Google Satoshi Ifuku, you get a Facebook link. You get what else do you get? Let me see, because I checked, and you get a Ko-Fi. You get someone. You get a ResearchGate, or I got a ResearchGate.net link to Shinsuke Ifuku. Definitely not Satoshi Ifuku. Official Gazette of the United States Patent and Trademark newspaper from 1998, containing the words
this
Ifuku and Satoshi.
Let's keep pulling this. So basically, our lead director here is a Time Lord. been everywhere.
No, that's not even, yeah. So nothing. You get a diddly squat on the person.
He's a Jane Doe.
So I'm, guessing that once again, Science Saru handing over the reins to someone who hasn't had experience doing the job, and I must say that the results are speaking for themselves up to this point because they've been stellar. They continue to be stellar, and this episode I thought was directed extremely well. So
yes.
Kudos and hats off to you, Saru, and to you, Ifuku-san.
Indeed. All right, then. So let's move on to talking about the episode itself. And, well, we open with what caught me a little bit by surprise in a couple of ways. First off, I was like, wow, I didn't realize Eizouken would be doing its own depiction of a Call of Duty level, but here we are. I mean, check that color palette out.
Yes.
Holy crap. See, it's just miserable and grey. It's like living
very miserable,
basically. It's like every time I walk out the door, basically. But yeah, Asukusa's like going around saying, hey, what's going on in this school? Like crashing through panels and all that. And they arrive in what looks like a warehouse with giant footprints on it. Love the framing here, by the way, of like the door and then the giant footprints there. That was good stuff. And then, they get caught by some ominous dude in the hallway. And they try and make a break for it, but Mizuzaki, unfortunately, she pulls a 1917, and you'll know what I'm referring to if you've seen that movie recently, by going straight over the tripwire. But unfortunately,
funny as shit, man. I love this in the fucking power supply.
The only thing that was missing was the just to have that. I mean, I'm watching it right now actually on my other monitor. Dunk. It needed a dunk. It needed a dunk like that.
And a slow motion like no.
She falls over 3 times to emphasize the effects.
Exactly.
We're doing our own Eizouken now. I like this. But yeah, so Asukusa escapes, and looks like there's some really, really strange things going on in the school, like robots being assembled, people being kidnapped. What could it possibly be? Who knows? But then Asukusa goes up the stairs and finds out Kanamori's in on it.
No,
betrayed. And Mizusaki's been mind controlled. Yes, there's a bunch of people there who are building a robot inside the school and taking over the minds of the others. But then, oh no, Asukusa is spotted, and she's hit by the mega missile of water. And
rip Asakusa.
Yeah, you died. Dark Souls ending. That's it.
Game over.
But no, unlike what I've seen in other shows, that missile hitting her actually knocks the color back into her, believe it or not.
Hey, there you go.
Because the whole world, the whole world goes back to normal.
That color palette, by the way, was and Cesar pointed it out. It was sort of a noir. Reference is not the right word, but like they were doing a noir bit, right, where they were sneaking.
The only thing that was missing, in my opinion, was some film grain.
Exactly. No, that would have been perfect. And it reminded me of, because you think like Asakusa says like it's not like a giant robot sci-fi, it's robot crime. And it made me think, are there robot crime shows? I mean, maybe, I guess in a certain sense, like Pat Labor is, because they're all cops. But
well, if you're Amazon Prime and you're marketing Mr. Robot, or if you're Isaac Asimov,
I guess I'm thinking more anime. No, there's definitely that whole thing in Western cinema and television.
I'm sure that at least one
the
of the
closest,
as the robot as anime. So you actually could be wrong on that.
Well, also I guess, and I've had fights with people about power suits being mecha, and they're like, no, power suits are not mecha. I consider them mecha. So I consider Bubblegum Crisis mecha, and so those ladies are crime fighters in robot suits, and the Boomers, which is a fantastic and timely name for a bunch of bad guys, are who they're. But I also thought the color palette reminded me of the 2004 the Tetsugen 28 remake by Yasuhiro Imagawa, the guy who directed.
It reminded me a lot of Flag, actually, funnily enough, in more ways than one this episode. Not least of which, again, because the color palette looks like it was entirely out of the Dulux, browns and beige palette here. All earth tones, all day.
Totally, yeah. And, like, the characters didn't really have that tone in Tetsugen. It was more like the world just looks like shit because of where it was that palette on a lot of it. And Tetragen is all about like Japan recovering from the war, so it's pretty rough times. But look, Power of Yuki, you're gonna Bubblegum Crisis is mecha.
You could say that water is wet and Yukinon would disagree.
He likes to argue, but
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
No,
just
but I understand. Like I actually get the argument. I mean, there are people that want to like strictly stick to the like mecha shows are about giant bipedal robots. You know what I mean?
Well, this is funnily enough what we're going to talk about later in this very same episode, Doc. So, I mean, have you? I'm going to have to ask the question: have you been part of a robot club yourself? Sounds like you know what the people in this episode are talking about.
A robot club?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I've never been.
Before you've had raging arguments about what constitutes mecha or not.
Well, this is only
this entire episode.
I know. This is only in anime like circles, only talking about anime fans. Talking with anime fans about...
Did you smash a chair over anyone's head to prove
No, it was over the phone. I wasn't in physical proximity. I couldn't do anything. I sent them
amateur, honestly.
I sent them a computer virus. I did what I could.
Wow.
I didn't really do that.
I'm disappointed.
But
in the fact that you didn't send it.
But we were talking about like our animes of the year, and we were talking about mecha designs, and they were just like, no, you can't count this one show because it's power suits. I'm like, it's robotics. Like, if you look in the credits of Japanese animations in shows that don't have what we consider mecha, but they have mechanical stuff, you will see like, mecha design or mechanical design, I guess, but like, or vice versa. You will see like mechanical design as the credit for giant robots. Anyway, this is a whole like path that I wasn't necessarily prepared to go down, actually, but I like to consider power suits part of the whole thing because it widens the genre and the appeal, in my opinion. You can tell different kinds of stories, and get people in the door to the larger kind of mechadom, because the mecha shows are a thing that I really like, and I like to be able to get people to watch by selling them on different kinds of things. And once they got their foot in the door, you can kind of gradually pull them towards other stuff. But anyway.
Very cunning. All right.
There is a robotics club at my kid's school, though.
I'm going to assume that's nothing awesome. Like the robot club of this one. Probably more like the actual robots they reference later on. Anyway, so they are indeed, the Eizouken that is, they're all talking with the robot club because they have been commissioned. That's it. Business is booming, as they say. They have been asked to make an anime based on this particular robot. And this is the point where Asukusa, starts getting involved, like looking at the details of it, like saying, well, no, this panel's a bit, I don't like this particularly, etc., etc. A lot of discussion about all that kind of thing. And the robot club are all like, maybe we've bitten off more we could chew here with these girls. Who knows? Like, they're so annoying.
Ironically, they say that, and it turns out their president turns out to be the fucking most annoying dude in the world.
Man, have I got things to say about him when we get to him soon?
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm ready.
My heart goes out to him. I love the guy, honestly, as a TV character. Super annoying though. Super duper annoying.
He really is one of those, well, actually, kind of people, isn't he?
He is. He kind of is.
But yeah, they are indeed being commissioned to make an anime based on a robot. So we then, of course, have our usual OP, which is all well and good. And we cut to, well, the Eizouken decide to go on a location tour, if you will, to get some inspiration for environments. And this is not the second time they've been going underground, because you might recall that in the second episode, Mizusaki actually arrived at school through the sewer. So they've got, this is like a running thing. Yeah, they've really been like, consistent with this. So Asukusa, turns up, looks at the door, this gate that leads into the sewer area or the underground or wherever it is, and she's bricking it. Because, we've already learned she's a bit anxious, and, I again simply don't particularly blame her, for going down, thinking, hey, I don't really want to go down there in general. So she tries to make a break for it because, hey, the gate's locked. That's my get out clause. But well, Kanamori,
we tried.
To her, locks is just merely a suggestion rather than something she has to rigorously, adhere to.
The function
so
of a door is to open. All doors must open.
Do you reckon, is there anything Kanamori can't do at this point? No. Okay,
definitely not.
Right, moving on. So they start exploring, and this is the point where Asukusa whips out her amazing little get up of light up sneakers, the kind that kids wear. The little doll around the neck and all that.
Oh man, that's talk about flashbacks. That's what brought me back. Because when I was a kid, it was
that's a kitsch there.
L.A. Lights, I think, were the shoes. There were L.A. Gear was. I don't even know if they are still around anymore if they make shoes, but the shoe brand called L.A. Gear made L.A. Lights. I think they were one of the first brands to market with the light up shoes, and they were red. They were always red, and they did not give a consistent glow. Asakusa's are just kind of glowing green the whole time, but these LA lights would only flash when you actually put weight on them. So a real pain in the ass if you're trying to play hide and seek in those shoes. They really get. I mean, and I've done that, and it was not.
I wonder where he could be. Let us follow this incredibly luminescent light source. There's no way that we possibly can find. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I see you. I see you running.
Ah, dear. So yeah, it looks like the girls have been commissioned. They're going exploring the underground. They make it a bit further and find, after crossing over this rotten wooden room that really does look like it's a trap room of some description. That's straight out of some sort of Uncharted shit, that particular room with the wooden floor. Asukusa, of course, going round the sides. They arrive at this open central chamber, and they start envisioning the pistol crab, I think it's called. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a crab tool that they made.
Crab tool, that's it, yeah.
And she said later that she, when she's talking about the specs, the club is that's too crazy and unrealistic. She's like, well, actually, it's scaled up from the pistol shrimp. And they punch, with this much power and have this much pressure and create a vacuum. And I just scaled those up based on the size. So fuck you. I know science and shit.
I believe in Japanese anthropology textbooks, they are known as the Saitama.
They should be. If you had a pet, you would have to name it Saitama.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, they conjure up this crab creature. And they get all of their necessary photographs for this, including some wonderful little moments Asuka's being reminded, I am afraid the dark. Hold me, Kanamori, protect me, please. Mm-hmm. And hey, good choice. If I were a ghost, I wouldn't fuck with Kanamori. Although, there is one idiot in this episode who makes that mistake later on, and I thought, your life ends in 5 seconds from now, mate. That's it. Game over. Goodbye. But on the way back out, they go through that same room again with the wooden floor, and it collapses on them. And they're left in a bed of leaves, which apparently is filled with toxic gas or something. I don't know, maybe the fresh scent of pine is too much for them to handle in such a small space. But this is the point where Asukusa gets them out through a rope invention. Tying up together a socket, a Swiss Army knife. Put a pin in that, by the way, because we're going to have a discussion on whether or not that actually happened.
That's interesting. Because they really, I was like, wow. It was not Wick Sauce, Yuki. It's I knew this was going to happen. I'm trying to think of a robot show from 2016, 2017 that released a couple of episodes and had to be stopped until the next season. It was very Madoka-esque. It wasn't Wick Sauce. It was something else. I'll have to dig it up. It started out on ill-fated anime streaming service Daisuke. Does anyone out there remember Daisuke?
Oh, yes.
It was the worst mobile streaming experience I've ever had. 100%. No doubts, no questions.
Did you enjoy the 72p display?
Yeah.
It technically counts as its own QR code.
Amazing. No, but so that's really interesting. So you think there's a possibility this didn't happen?
Well,
she is a survivalist, right? I mean, that would be in keeping with her character.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll discuss this. I'm not signing one way or the other yet. I'm just going to put that in your minds to think about.
Sure.
So anyway, I would be neglectful if I didn't mention that they came up with their own design for a robot in this little moment here, which includes one of the most amazing features I think I've seen on a robot, which is it uses a chainsaw to travel with.
So good.
Just stick the chainsaw in and just off you go. And I'm just like, love it. Absolutely love it. It's not even what it's for, but that's great. That is absolutely great. So they make it back to the clubhouse, and I need to point out Asakusa has an amazing pointing face here. That's a pointing face that tells you shit's going to get done. And I thought Kanamori was the sole, net exporter of, you will do that, why tell you in the club. Apparently I was wrong. But yeah, this is the point where we get the actual idea of this episode brought to full fore here, which is initially, we of course had the girls talking amongst themselves about what they wanted to do. But now they're actually delivering a product for someone else that's on a specification that's given to them.
Very
and
interesting.
There's a lot of discussion. Yes, and there's a lot of discussion here about how much leeway do we want to have in what we want to bring to it versus what they want, which no doubt will be something me and Doc will be discussing after the end of the plot summary. But unfortunately, there's dastardly deeds underfoot because oh my god, this guy, this fucking guy. Honestly, do you reckon if he ever encountered fun, he just stood on it by accident and killed it? Because he decides, you know what I'll do? I'll come up with a plan to take down the Eizouken. I'm like, well, I know you might not have many brains, but you've got big brass balls, mate, because if you want to take on Kanamori's group at anything...
Good luck!
Really, really good luck. But unfortunately, he runs his mouth quite a bit. He'd probably be a good podcaster, as it turns out, actually.
He would be a good internet personality, I think.
Shock radio, I reckon, that kind of thing. So he decides that what he'll do is he'll start yelling about this while the girls are all waiting outside to meet with the robot club. And they come in, of course, and find that he has written in a massive scroll on the whiteboard, "Take down the Eizouken," which loose lips sink ships, man. And Kanamori just drinks this moment up like, She is a psychic vampire, in my opinion. She loves every moment of it.
What a vibe check.
Oh, indeed.
Boom. What?
So Ono's actual beef, if you will, is that he's all into the realism of giant robots, which, man, there's some harsh lessons to be learned in this moment. There's some hard truths, if you will, because they've all rightly point out that robots, giant robots in particular, are completely impractical for anything that you could get them to do after a certain size. For robots to be practical, they would have to be probably smaller than we are. You have things like mine clearing robots and whatnot, and robots that you send into contaminated areas. We're not talking actual giant bipedal mecha as far as things that are actually, practical. And Ono's he's actually kind of sad about that because he just wants to pilot a giant robot once in his life, which is a real shame. But
living in the wrong timeline, buddy.
Yeah, this is the point where, by the way, after an amazing framing shot of how giant the table is, showing the distance between them, this is the point where the bridge is made. Because Asakusa says, I dream about the vastness of space every time I take a bath. I just want to go there some point. And indeed, that is consistent with all of the things we've seen thus far about her taking flight and also actually being in space, repairing the spaceship in episode 3. And then, Mizuzaki has pretensions towards, mastering her chi, shall we say. I mean...
Every night before
I'm sorry, the question I have to ask, though, is if you really do want to learn how to do Hadouken, don't you also want to do the other moves as well? Don't you want to learn how to do the Tatsumaki, I think it is, the helicopter kick?
Yeah, that'd be the hurricane kick.
What about the Shoryuken?
I would settle for just one. I wouldn't be greedy. As long as you could do a Hadou, you could throw a fireball.
I mean, I'll give credit to Mizuzaki. She's pretty high tier, but I mean, we all know in the game of Eizouken that Kanamori is SS tier, God tier, even, if you will.
Hi, Jessica.
It's a bit unbalanced, this game, unfortunately.
It is a little unbalanced. Really cool thing to point out. And I could do this during the talking points, but we're here, may as well just do it now. It's very quick, but real funny how at the beginning of this meeting, you get this incredible low shot where you see the table looks so long, the distance between them.
That's what I mentioned. Yeah, that's it.
But once they've all started crying and they come together and they stand up to shake their hands, the distance has grown so short, and they're able to simply just reach across the table and touch each other. what a nice touch, man.
Except for Kanemaru's like, I have a real problem here. And I love, by the way, repeated gags like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
I have a real problem with people who insert
I have a
thing here.
real problem with people. That's just me right now.
Uh-huh.
That's just me when I'm having a bad day. But anyway, yeah, they actually then bridge the gap here, get everything sorted. And that's when they start conceptualizing as a group. So what we have here is, again, the greatest world sequence we've seen a lot of times before, where it's just kind of like the iterative process of adding things in, taking things out, and so on in this design for this robot. And they discuss it with the Robot Club, taking some stuff out that Ono's not into, like he still wants things to be a bit realistic. We get a scene of switches, for example, which, by the way, I love. I'll talk about that in a bit.
Heck yes, me too.
I
love the control panel, man. I love the control, but I love what they said too about it. So
yeah, so they're going through all of that and actually bringing the club in to become more of a collaborative process, which is really neat. And that ends them with them designing the entire robot. It, by the way, has a drill. And as I was watching the iterative process of the drill bit being designed, I was like, this is absolutely the time for you to make a Gurren Lagann reference. Come on, show. Go. Fuck.
they didn't want to be too obvious. And
mate, come on, they had Future Boy Conan, and they didn't even ask permission before they started bringing that in.
Well, that wasn't even a reference. That was more just like, we lifted this shit.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
that's
it wasn't
the
even
end goal of piracy, isn't it? Like, if you can't actually draw it yourself.
It's just art, man. Just stealing other people's shit. That's just what artists and creators do, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they didn't do the Gurren Lagann reference, and admittedly, I have not seen all of the Getter stuff, but I've seen a bunch of it, and it didn't really look like a Getter reference either. So the drill was definitely way more practical and realistic. More like something you'd see in... Even though you don't see it in Galgaigar, it's more like that. Like, Galgaigar was all about having realistic tools, like a screwdriver that could open, like, a rift in dimensions and, things like that.
I mean, when you and I start talking about this, by the way, we're going to reference a different trigger. See, I'm sure of it. Well, not even trigger, but the people who came to make the trigger eventually. You probably know what I'm referring to. Tap's head.
Kynex.
Yes. Well said. So yeah, they designed the robot. They've given it all the various... But much like with the end of episode 3, that's it. We're going to leave on a cliffhanger. We're going to see if, it'll actually get going. Although, to be fair, the ending moment of the episode is it standing up. Feels
Heck
appropriate.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Indeed.
Breaking out of whatever purple encasement it was in. Was that like the old drawing it was breaking out of? I wasn't clear on that.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. But that otherwise is the episode. So a different thing than I expected, because I thought... if I may just say, this episode would be, okay, we've just got the budget from the production committee to do our own thing. Now we've got to start this bigger project. But this is actually something different than that. And I'm actually okay with it having thought about it. I was initially like, I would prefer got straight into the thing that they were supposed to be doing next. But on the one hand, from a narrative standpoint, you can always do well to have a little bit of downtime and something a bit fun. That's always nice. By the way, Cesar's made an excellent point there that I'd be remiss not to point out, which is that the robot ends up being a Swiss Army knife, just like the one Asakusa uses before.
Oh.
Well
that's
spotted,
handy.
Cesar.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but it totally is.
Indeed. So I actually don't mind this at all. And on top of that, I strong purpose in... Like I say, we had internalized group politics before between the three of them. The clash particularly between Asakusa and Miyazaki in terms of what they wanted to do, what they wanted to bring to the table above all else, and the compromises they had to make. But now they're working with an out-group, a contractor, if you will.
Indeed.
Which I think is a very good next step for the show to cover.
Yep.
All right. So, talking points. I have a major one that I want to get into that's going to be something I'm going to want you all listening at home to help me with, if you would. And I've got our patrons to offer some assistance with this as well. Because if there's one thing I can say about Eizouken, like there's a lot of stuff you and I can talk about that's super serious about it, and I don't think necessarily all of that may be merited because this is a very light-hearted show. It's just a funny time.
Oh,
know?
It's merited. How dare you? It's merited. God damn
it. So here's the thing, right? Let's ask everyone the question: why do we love giant mecha? Why do we love giant mecha shows? What do they do that makes it work for us? What makes a great giant mecha show? So I'm going to leave this to you first, because you're a huge fan of giant mecha, and I know that you've got thoughts on this.
I am, although
before you begin, by the way,
okay.
People in chat, sound off with what your thoughts are as well. I'd love to hear them all.
Yeah, tell us
Let's get some conversation going.
Tell us what you love about robot shows, or if you don't like them, why don't you like them? Like, what do they not give you? And then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Wow.
No,
it's our podcast, damn it.
Totally would not invalidate or attempt to invalidate your dislike for the subgenre. Because mecha, like, do you consider mecha a genre or a subgenre? I've always thought of it as a subgenre of science fiction.
I'm going to go with a subgenre because I think for me, like, it's all well and good and easy enough to just have giant mecha fighting each other. But more often than not, you tend to then have it be the thing that you drape around a framework, like Gundam War in the Pocket, for example, which is your war is hell message. Or even with, say, Gunbuster, which I was going to reference eventually, might as well get out there now, which was about being forced to grow up faster than you could anticipate, perhaps even too soon, and the cruelty and coldness of time, but still had an amazing robot in it. Don't get me wrong. Or even Macross, that's the name of the franchise.
There's robots in Macross?
No. Rubbish.
It's just an idol show.
I'm surprised there aren't robot. Well, there was actually Robot Island.
Yep.
Although I'm surprised they haven't revisited that. No, actually, they did, kind of. With, what was her name? Grace. But she wasn't an idol.
Oh. Yes. Correct.
She was just a cyborg.
And which is Sharon Apple technically a robot? I guess like if she's in a computer. You know what I mean? She's sort of just an artificial intelligence. But are you a robot if you don't have like a body to move around, some kind of physical body?
Oh man, there are people who are going to argue with us for days on that.
Because
robots
don't have to be like artificially intelligent, right? They can just like be dumb laborers and just move shit around, right? I mean, that's why you get criticized for being a robot, unthinking, just following orders.
Well, that's something Asimov wrote a lot about, funnily enough. So, hey, and in say Macross, the robots that are in that's the name of the franchise. That's the name of like the big ship. But if you think about it, all that's really secondary to what else is going on.
Valkyries.
So I would agree. I would agree that is a subgenre that you blend together with other stuff. Like, it's the secondary ingredient, the side.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people just love sides. What can I say?
Yeah, sometimes this portion of the side will be huger. But I think it can be the main component. But again, like, I think it's just a kind of sci-fi story that you can tell typically. But okay, so why do I like why do I like robot shows? Okay, I've only thought about this for like half an hour. I could probably come up with like a more...
This could be its own podcast, I suspect.
A more nuanced or more well thought out answer, but a couple different reasons, and this is gonna mainly speak to why I like super robot shows, because those are my preferred kind of robot shows. Now, if you don't know what I mean, around the time that Mobile Suit Gundam came out, which was 1979, I believe, the TV series, robots largely up to that point had been in anime these like bright colored almost mechanical superheroes that either function on their own or people got into pilot and then they could do like feats of all kinds of superhuman ability, and they were just machines of mass destruction or mass heroism, and like craziness, like shooting rocket punches, drilling to the center of the earth, like cutting shit open with a heat axe. Like, it was all about like the kind of over the top spectacle. I say all about it. That was that was part and parcel of the package. And later we kind of identified shows that do that sort of thing as super robot shows. And that's the kind of thing that speaks to me. But I do like real robot shows, the other side of the coin. And Gundam started this, although if you look at the original Mobile Suit Gundam, it looks very much and smells very much like a super robot show. When you look at the RX-78-2, the Gundam itself, it is a super powered prototype, has a lightsaber, can do all these crazy things. There are like psychics that pilot it, spoilers. And a lot of Gundam shows have that, where the robots are just like, I have a like huge like laser scythe and could blow up the ocean. But like what Gundam had in it with the other robots was like, hey, these robots are just a slightly more kind of ramped up version of like a tank or some other like war machine or machine of labor. And you have shows like Armor Trooper Votoms, which went that way with the Scope Dogs. Like if you Google Votom Scope Dog, you'll see, and like all the robots are some variation on that. I think that I like them. They look really cool, but like they might as well just be tank units. And Pat Labor has like big humanoid Ingrams, the Ingram AV-98 units that are just like big cop cars, basically, that can do some cool stuff. But and so yeah, that's what the real robot show is. Is like, it's of course a science fiction story. It's not completely realistic, but it's like more grounded. Like it sets the set of rules, and the robot isn't meant to, at the end of the show, gain a super rad power up that breaks all the rules, right? So those are the kind of like there's stuff on the edges, the borderline stuff in between, but largely most robot shows are either super or real robot, right? And so yeah, like this. So Zoe is talking about interaction with the pilots. That's another big thing. Like in super robot shows, that often is a trope, right? Like the robot and the pilot are like functioning together somehow. Like they've joined up and become one. Like, and it's you feel the energy in my heart, and that's why I can go up to 11 now. And like, whereas like again in real robot shows, the robot is a machine, and if one person is if one robot is really, really great, it's just because the pilot is really, really great in terms of like, you might have someone that can pilot an F-15 way better than other people. We're talking about that kind of thing. But anyway, this has been a history lesson. It's supposed to be why I like robot shows. I love the larger than life spectacle.
Yes.
Love it. Just things that are, I've talked about on this podcast before how like anime being batshit is a thing that I still love, and it used to be way more of a reason that I love anime. Just like the most ridiculous out there, like Gurren Lagann we've been talking about. Some really great examples. They have like probability altering warheads. They have robots that like throw galaxies at each other, like just pick up a galaxy in its hand and throw it as a projectile weapon.
Man, now you're making me think of Promare again, which the giant robot stuff in that is great. I mean, like, robots are impractical, like as is said in this episode, in terms of like not being realistic. But who cares? You've got some amazing stuff going. Like, are you willing to tell me the Big O's like piston punch isn't awesome? Are you really going to tell me that, even though it's completely daft if you think about it in the most literal terms?
This is okay.
I haven't seen Big O Bio, but I've seen that at the very least.
But it's so good. Like another reason I really like robot shows is I really, really like when it doesn't happen all the time. In fact, these days it doesn't really happen often. I was gonna say I've done a bad job of keeping up with like current robot shows because I don't know, something about
there doesn't seem to be that many of them anymore though.
There's not a lot, and like what they say, allude to in this episode. Do you remember when Mizusaki says, "Hey, can we cover the joints up?" I think people have been saying this for as long as I've been listening to anime podcasts, but people there just aren't the people that know how to draw robots anymore that are coming into the industry or still live in the industry. They were asking Memuro Oshii in an interview he did right around the time Skycrawlers came out. Have you seen the Skycrawlers?
Nope.
I think you would like it. It's a neat movie. I think you might have some issues with it, but I like the message a lot. But
I'm the nitpicky guy amongst us. If I didn't have issues, I'd probably be more concerned in it.
But you like Memuro Oshii, so I think you would like this movie. But like they were asking him about the planes, and he was like, "Yeah, they have to be CG because nobody knows how to hand draw them anymore," and so that's a real thing. That's part of why there aren't as many robot shows. So, like, and I'm not saying I can't handle 3D mecha and shit. I mean, I love like Gurren Lagann.
Like, when you see Promare, you're gonna realize how right you are that hey, there's plenty of opportunity for CG to do some really great stuff.
Totally.
I mean, Promare, I think also lived very much on its sense of style, but nonetheless, that. I mean, come on, it's Imaishi.
But before
that's it, done.
Before the Land of the Lustrous anime was a glint in the eye of Studio Orange, they were doing the mechanical animation for Majestic Prince, and that show is great. I love Majestic Prince.
They do stuff for Macross as well, if I remember correctly. I'm sure they did some stuff.
They did. I think they did for Delta some stuff. Yeah, I'm almost positive that's right. So it doesn't have to be 2D for me, but but just I don't know. I don't want to get into me being an old man or some bullshit about current mecha. But anyway,
we'll count the rings.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I feel like I have I can shirk that label by saying I like Die Buster more than Gunbuster. And if you're a fucking old man who loves robot shows, that's anathema. Like most people that were just like, oh my god, Gunbuster 2. Why is this called Gunbuster 2? It's not the same.
Man, I'm still proud of having the most centrist fence-sitting opinion ever on Die Buster, which is it was okay. I think that still to this day, I'm sure, makes your blood boil. I'm not even mad at it. That's the problem.
I'm good. No, but listen, no. So I haven't even talked about why I like robot shows. We keep getting sidetracked. So reason number 2 is the animating of things like the Big O's Piston Punch, like those simple actions. Just there's the opportunity there to make them to do so much, to craft all that detail and lovingly make a thing. That's why I'm okay with in mecha shows stock footage for transformations and stuff. If that gives the animators more time to lovingly craft the robot doing cool things, I'm all about it. And Thales I think that's how maybe Thaliarchus. I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy's Twitter name, but you know him. You've seen him on Twitter.
I've seen him.
He reckons that those transformation sequences are like the chorus to your favorite pop song.
Yes.
So I like that.
That is such an amazing, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
So I like the power fantasy too. I can't lie and say that I don't. I mean, just seeing the extension of the human will through technology go out to frontiers or achieve things that it could never achieve is super cool to me. And also like you talked about mecha as a framework for storytelling, and why I think it's in keeping with science fiction is these things are often just a conduit for big ideas about future tech or war, or was talked about in chat, I believe by Felix, post-colonialism. They just use the robots to as part of painting a setting where they can tell a certain kind of story. And I just really am attracted to the stories that they've been telling in that genre. Again, either from the point of view, or not point of view, but from referencing things like Gundam, where it is very anti-war, or like the like more of the Trigger kind of, or Gainax way of doing things, the like, let's evolve humankind, like let's move beyond like all of our old hang-ups and prejudices, and let's achieve something together. And that like circles back to that great moment in the episode where they start to, both clubs come together to design the robot, and they achieve something more than they could individually on their own with that synthesis of ideas.
I would agree. So for me, like, beyond simply just giant robots being awesome, I think that if you want to boil it down, like, one of the reasons that giant robots are so cool, or mechs so cool, or why people like them so much, is because they are the ultimate extension of human action, as you say. Like, you know, they are humanoid in shape. You have arms, you have legs. And so, you know, let's say your robot loses its arm in a battle. You can feel that more instinctively than you could say if you were looking at a ship that was just getting shot. Like, that's something you can immediately say, oh God, the arm's gone.
Yeah.
You know, that's the eminently relatable, like, injury, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But then on top of that, because someone, like, you know, existing through the shell of a robot, like, you know, doing something, like, that's why all those awesome moments feel all the more awesome, because it feels like an extension of human will, as you say. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, that, like, I can imagine, like, it feels like an, how should we say, what's the word I was going to use there? An extrapolation of sorts. Like, you can imagine, for example, someone doing an actual human doing the equivalent of the big O piston punch, like, you know, against some dude in the boxing ring. And that's cool in its own right, don't get me wrong. But then you scale that up, and there's just something so much more amazing about it, in my opinion.
What if you put a power suit on the man in the boxing ring?
Well, then you end up with Megalobox.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh man, that was a good show. That I really liked.
Good.
I need to. But I think also I really have to just admit that I
snuck that one by you.
When I grew up, or when I was growing up, or rather when I was very young, I really got into Thunderbirds when I was much younger. And that's not a mecha show of sorts. I know that much, but I can see how it inspired a lot of mecha, because it felt like some of the episodes felt like a crescendo to something amazing, like. When like the transformation sequence, like you say, you know, when you start, you know, building up to that moment, like getting everything ready for the big, like, rescue, if you will, or the big fight, like that, I think is personified really, really well in giant robot shows. So yeah, and besides, it's just cool to see like you can nerd out really hard about the specs of a robot that obviously can't exist. So I love that shit. I really do. I wish there was more giant robot shows being made. So I understand kind of why it's fallen a bit by the wayside. But yeah, man. I mean, think of the switches like the Mizuzaki. Completely and utterly unnecessary if you think about it. You don't need to have them in there to make a robot function. Like, the robot could do whatever you want it to do, whatever you need it to do. But having all those switches feels like a build-up. It's like, you know, the overture.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like the build up to something amazing. So yeah, there's so many reasons, and I just want. Well, I mean, there's supposedly more Macross on the way, so that's why I'm gonna have to hold out hope for.
That's too much of a how do you call it, a cash cow. For them to let it go.
You got to have more Macross, man. Come on. I mean, there's the. I think it might have already been out actually, and it's just not yet made it over here in one form or another. That is because of various reasons. Wasn't there the Delta film, or am I misremembering?
There definitely was a Delta movie. Were there two? I feel bad because we're big Macross fans, but we don't know shit about the Delta movies. I feel like there's a sequel, but is there also a compilation movie of the first? I think that's the case. I think one is a compilation and the other is, here is our heroine after the fact or whatever.
I love Zoo's answer there, by the way. I want a mecha anime switches with disastrous consequences. Imagine that just being the whole episode where you have to go through the manual on how to start the robot up, and you're just like, Oh god, this got to turn on this. Ah, shit! I did it out of sequence. No.
Oh man. Oh shoot. What is the name? I've asked this before on this podcast and come up dry because I can't remember. There is a mecha show from like 2003 or so. Somewhere around there. Made by I think it was released by Genion over here. And it's basically about like the economics of giant robots. Like basically like they barely get the robot started up and have this battle where it all goes really crappy and the main hero barely survives and the robot barely beats the monster, but like it's just all about it's just all kind of a comedy about like, well, doing this is totally unfeasible because of all the logistics involved and all the money that it would cost to just operate it for 1 minute, let alone, you know what I mean? So yeah. I wish I could remember the name of it.
What was the name of the dude who did Flag, actually? I joked.
Oh, Ryosuke Takahashi.
Yeah, he's the one who's basically no fun when it comes to... He's Ono in this episode.
They are making... Right. He is. They're making art. I think they're making more than one Eureka 7 movie. They did an Eureka 7 movie, Good Night, Sleep Tight, Young Lovers, but they're doing like a reboot. Or it's either a reboot or they're making new content that's not just a compilation or a side story. What are they called? I forget what they're called. They're something like Evolution, something like that. Anyway, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm getting sidetracked from chat. Because there's good mecha stuff around, but it's fair to say that it is not like the crown jewel of anime as it was in, say, like the 1980s, where all the most well-known and most seen properties are robot properties. It's like, was that even true then? I guess it's a fair question to ask of me, but I feel like on some level they're more well-known, whereas now that they're like pretty niche and like we talked about, like a lot of the current ones are sort of recycling ideas from either other mecha shows or magical girl shows, which by the way are the same thing. Don't at me. They're just the same thing with a different coat of paint. I'm telling you, it's true.
And on top of that as well, I think another reason why mecha shows are so popular, or rather, so likable, is because, as you say, it's the power fantasy. Like, if you, for example, let's say, from Dragon Ball, I would argue not everyone can become a Saiyan or a Super Saiyan. And again, I know very little about Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
but in theory, even if we'll never do it, like you can watch a robot show and see someone piloting a robot and think, I could do that if I learned. It's open to all. Anyone can put on that kind of, armor or pilot that robot and suddenly become immensely powerful. And often that's the core of a power fantasy, which is that not through like physical means and such, but rather by having an external method like power or something else, you can suddenly go from being weak to being strong. And indeed, then we learn also how that can be subversive in itself. I mean, Evangelion, Shinji gets in the most powerful robot around, and he's completely shit scared still.
Oh yeah.
It all fits.
As you ought to be, I think, if you're 14.
Where's the cup holder? Shit! Do you reckon they put a cup holder in...
My juice!
Did they put a cup holder in AV Unit 1? Did they have one of those tiny little cigarette lighter dongle things that you get out of like a car?
I don't know if you could technically drink liquid when you're submerged in a vat of liquid.
I got sworn they weren't in the vat of liquid in that either, but then again, I haven't watched it in ages, so...
They're in something called LCL, which you will learn about. It's meant to simulate what it's like being in a mother's womb.
Oh, God!
For very good reasons. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's all coming back.
That's why, like, when you see, remember the shot of Rey, like she'd been ejected or whatever, and the tube is cracked. That's why all that orange shit is spilling out of it, because they're in the juice.
Couldn't it have just been for the more I mean, this is the realism thing. Like, this is Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker of all things, because there's the fucking Metal Gear Zeke in that, and what's hilarious is that they have the cockpit be completely like submerged in water, and then they have Pars in it, and Pars is in, of course, the fucking skivvies because, of course. Oh. But the reason that they wrote in that it was underwater was because like it distributes the force of impacts, which is actually true. if you were inside a vehicle that was
Sure.
complete,
Yeah.
that's how the physics work. But then, of course, they use that as an excuse just to have a fan service scene for this character. So there you go. So yeah, I hear you on that, but
no, there's reason. There's really good reasons why that's the case.
I'm sure.
Really, really, really fucking great reasons why they wouldn't even be able to pilot the robots without the juice. You need the juice.
You've got to have your Mountain Dew ready.
I'm gonna poll number 3. Do you need the juice? It's coming at you. Get ready.
Be ready for it. So yeah, I think there's plenty of reasons that people can absolutely adore mecha anime, and thank you, by the way, to everyone for sharing your own perspectives on that in the chat. I'm actually going to just quickly read out some of our patron thoughts as well, because we do have those. So this one comes from Yukinon, who I believe is in chat at the moment, currently scheming the next way in which you can try and set me off. I know you've got plans, Yuki. I know they're on big boards around your room. He says this: I personally love mecha shows that highlight the pilot's abilities rather than the capability of the mecha itself. Seeing a pilot do his very best and push the machine to its limits, seemingly pulling off a miracle, gets my blood boiling in the good kind of way. Yeah, I can hear you on that.
Sure.
Because I think also that's another thing that's quite neat about it, is that robots or giant mecha, for the most part, have a fairly clearly defined set of abilities and attributes when you get them. Like, they're an understandable thing. Like, it's like when you buy a car, the car obviously can only do certain things or has certain top speed and whatnot. But then you can do creative things with it. That's something I said in our After Hours podcast, by the way, where I said one of the best ways to write combat in fiction, or just generally any sort of activity, is where you have an established set of abilities or powers or weapons early on, and you have them used in creative ways rather than constantly adding new shit in all the time. That's why JoJo's is popular, amongst other reasons. Because you get your stands set up very early on, and then you see them use them in creative and sometimes incredibly obtuse ways. So yeah, I would agree with that too. This one comes from Navy Cherub. I'm not super into mecha shows for the robots themselves, but I'd say I have a preference for designs or technology that emphasize physical melee-type combat over lasers and overpowered weapons. I like it when the action feels like it has weight to it. Real robot versus super robot, I suppose. I also agree as well. I think if Eizouken taught us anything, it's also how you deliver an explosion on screen that helps sell the impact.
Yeah.
But when you've got a robot with a giant minigun, for example, or one that shoots out giant shells that go bong on the floor, like the one in episode 4 from the tank. You get that, I'm all on board with it. But giant robots, if you do them properly, do have a real sense of physicality and impact.
I can't help but think of the scene in End of Evangelion when Asuka is fighting through all the series of angels, like the white robots with the angel wings. Like, if you watch that scene, that movie was made in 1997. I feel like it's still the creme de la creme of melee mecha combat in terms of the sense of weight and momentum and impact, like that you can feel with this robot swinging the big blade around and how the blade pushes into the machines, and her moving around in the cockpit with that going on. It's just incredible. Even divorced from all the context of the movie, it's an amazing scene to see.
Damn right. Do you have anything else to add on that particular point, Doc?
I love mecha, and
please give us more.
Yeah, I guess, again, it depends on what you're doing, but yeah, it's just been a long time since I've sat down and watched a long-ass mecha show, too. I fucking
just to throw out there, by the way, Cesar, there are some moments that are pretty egregious about that in JoJo's, not least of which being the ending of Part 5, which, when I watched, I was like, right, I'm done. I've seen enough JoJo's last week. Quite a long time. I'm sure Stone Ocean might bring me back around again if they get around to that when David Pro do that. But you could never. I could tell Araki had wrist into a corner with that one. How do I get Giorno out of this? Things happen. Bye. Wizards.
Iron-Blooded Orphan.
Wizards did it.
Reference in chat by Yukinon, aka the best guy, because he referenced Iron-Blooded Orphan.
Are you replacing him on? Are you placing me on the podcast?
I am. Pack your things.
What a traitor! You were there first. Well, you're not even physically here, and I've still been backstabbed.
I also have cut out on JoJo's, but I did it way earlier than you, so You telling me I didn't miss anything?
I've got.
I haven't finished.
I've signed up to our Patreon to get on After Hours, and
tell me about why I should finish Stardust Crusaders. And, and I have not seen part 4. I've seen the first 2.
Man, the more I think about it, the better part 4 looks actually relative to the rest. But that's a discussion for a different time. Right, Doc, I'm going to put the baton over to you. Do you have other talking points?
Oh yeah. So, well, firstly, like, why is it unexplained that there's a drink cooler in the studio now? Where did this come from? Why is it full of drinks? Where did they get the money for this? Who puts the drinks in? Is it the school? Do they bring their own drinks? How's no one drinking the drinks in the scene if there's a cooler full of cold milk and shit?
They need all the juice for the mech they're going to build.
They need the juice. You need the juice.
There you go.
But what if it's not all juice?
Maybe Asuka's had like many more traumatic but hilarious accidents. Just saying. You know, that'll make bank. Get yourself 30 grand each time in yen.
Oh my god. My head is spinning now. I lost track of everything I was thinking because I looked out my window and someone's playing a guitar in our building. I can't hear them. Maybe they have headphones on, but like they're just playing a guitar, and that just doesn't happen.
Are they playing Groovy Magic? Is that it?
This doesn't happen outside my
Groovy Magic.
That doesn't happen outside my office much.
Get him in here. Get him to play on podcast.
I will not. I become like Asakusa when it comes to strangers.
It's Doc. It's all about the finished products. It's not about the toil and sweat to get to that point.
No. So, moving on from the cooler, which again, an unsolved mystery. I feel like is worth investigating. I've lost one page of my notes. Oh yeah, the panel, right? The control panel. Mizu says this incredible thing when they're flicking the switches. You know, Kanamori is like, "Is this really necessary? Like this whole control panel thing?" And Mizusaki's like, "That the switches show that people making the robot anime ultimately put their faith in people," which I think is like incredible.
That is a great line.
It's almost ironic in a way, right? Because like people making a show about like these giant machines, like they're these big tools that are replacing or usurping like kind of the farthest reach that humans can do. Like the human body can only reach so far, but through technology, like embodied in this bipedal robot, it can reach farther. We can go higher and do more things, but that control panel, the way it's set up, actually is saying like this is still about humanity and what
can't operate unless they work it.
What humanity can achieve. You could build a machine that just like did its thing and was artificially intelligent. Like you could build an algorithm robot. And this is so funny, you know, it's syncing up with Ollie's data video that I just watched today. Have you seen the newest Philosophy Tube?
I've seen a bit of it, but I've not seen all of it.
It's very good. Everybody should definitely go and watch that. But yeah, he just talks about data and privacy, and ultimately, of course, gets around to how shit algorithms are and how like they fuck up because of all kinds of different reasons. Just because of the way that they're built.
I mean, hey, it's an algorithm that we've got to blame for Babylon, the anime, because I can't believe that a human actually wrote it.
There you go.
Still sticking a knife in. Love it.
So, so yeah, I like that. I like that sort of explicit messaging that mecha anime are not about like phasing out humanity. They are very human stories. We're just kind of the next wave of tools that we're using are these mecha, and they're meant to be stories about people and say things about human race. and that hopefully, I mean, in the case of the Eizouken, it's true, but most of the time, the message, even if is gloomy and is anti-war and is like, oh, we've done some terrible shit as people, you hopefully the message is about like the hope, you know what I mean? Like you're putting your faith in people to carry forward humanity into the future and to move us to a good place. Now sometimes you get like the occasional not that, like Ava could have gone opposite that, even though it doesn't. Gundam Thunderbolt definitely goes is I feel like that was the big part of the reason why I didn't like it, is because it was a mecha show, it was a war show that showed no faith in humanity to
I remember you writing
itself.
about. Oh, so you did a solo way back when.
Yeah,
it was. I think you took the Saka community as task for ignoring the story. I think it's been a while since I've listened to it, so I don't.
Yeah, it's been a while since I thought about it. I think, I mean, and it was mixed very poorly, so I wouldn't recommend listening to it now necessarily. If you can, as long as you can ignore the technical faults. But yeah, like I guess what was I saying? That like it's got a lot of great animation, but like there's more going on, and what was going on in that show was not it was very disquieting to me. For sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, Girls Last Tour made mechas look like walking nukes. The show I've told Yukinon that I'm about to get around to. And I think he's actually requested that as a patron.
He's I believe he's going to put me on the front line, so to speak, to cover that eventually. I'm getting all the front line reporting. I'm going to be doing Flag soon. I'm going to be doing the Girls Last Tour, getting it all in.
Well, this is a prime opportunity for a plug. Shadon, tell where could people go if they want to become a patron or request you cover something?
Well, if you want to hear me talk about something at length, I've done really awful shit like Shield Hero. I've done Eizouken. I've done great things. I've done Tokyo Godfathers, which is amazing. And by the way, game re-released in the US soon. Do check that out. And I've also covered the incredibly disappointing marketing exercise that was Guilty Crown. So I've done all those at length. And if you want to hear stuff like that, where I get to talk for like 50 minutes about a subject matter, in great and exhaustive detail, you can look at our Patreon, get yourself on there at patreon.com/Warui Deshou. $5 tier or higher, get yourself a ton of benefits, Discord access, get yourself, ability to ask us questions week on week about shows we're covering. You get our early access to our second stream, where we're currently covering Jeweler Richard. You can help influence the future of the podcast by deciding what we cover next season for second stream. And then, of course, you get to put yourself in the queue to get us to cover anime of your choice. With certain criteria, mind you. You ain't getting me covering no hentai.
No animal inspector or whatever just got pulled off of Funimation.
Oh, man. do we want to talk about that briefly, just because I'm really, really amused by it?
I just can't believe it took this long for it to happen. Like, as long as streaming has been a thing, as many shows as these companies have been gobbling up to...
Well, Funimation put out Kabuki Show Sherlock last time, so any pretension on their part of standards is a lie.
Oh my god. But yeah, like again, interspecies reviewers, thank you, Yukinon. Again, I'm just shocked that it took like 10 years pretty much. I mean, I believe what's it called? Why is it leaving me? Tatami Galaxy was streamed as it was coming out, and that's a 2010 show. And I remember in 2011, or maybe 2010, Rainbow being simulcast. So in one form or another, these things have been happening for 10 years, and certainly not at the volume they are now back then.
I mean,
but still a lot has been streamed. And like
to my understanding though, Doc, like I think like shows like, I've heard that show's full of dicks, but the problem is that's not the same as interspecies reviewers, which is also full of dicks.
That's not what I mean. Yeah, no, this is not. Yeah, yes, I don't mean to say, oh, they streamed Tatami Galaxy. Why didn't that get censored? Like, that's not what I mean. No. It just like I'm surprised that they have not run into this problem where they've licensed a show not realizing the amount of sexual content in there would make a lot of people uncomfortable. I'm just surprised it hasn't happened before now.
Fair enough. All right, then. So over to me. Let's talk about the scene that I mentioned. Saves them from the pit of, leaves or whatever it is. Let's talk about this. So we can debate until the crows come home whether or not this actually happened or not, because we don't end up seeing, like, the evidence is a little scant. Like, we don't see them, like, climb out. It just cuts to the next scene, etc. You can make arguments all day. But I think this scene does serve a purpose, which is this. It's been shown before in this show, particularly in episode 2 and also a little bit in episode 1, that, getting involved in the idea of fantasizing about like the creative process, letting your imagination run wild, can be a detriment. Because you get too drawn into it, too focused into it. And indeed, we see that earlier on in this episode where Asukusa brings all of this arguably unnecessary crap with her, like the sneakers and whatnot, and the doll around her neck, and this comical twig that she thinks she's going to bat off ghosts with. And it's what makes her comfortable. So I'm not mocking her by it. I'm just saying it's not really necessary. But then we see that this same imagination, this same, survivalist attitude that you brought before, that she's really into, pulls them out of a jam. And indeed, she when they first went through the room, she says we got to hug the walls. So, funnily enough, this show, like, it says, don't get too deep into your flights of fantasy and your daydreaming. But it also says that there are times when that can be really, really helpful. Because you have the creativity then to solve problems in front of you, and also the foresight to bring necessary tools that you might need. So I like the nuance that adds. It says, hey, you know what? It's bad in some cases, but it's great in others. It's just a question of how you use it and just not letting get yourself too distracted. So I thought it was pretty neat.
Very cool. Yeah. Did it happen? They didn't do the trademark, woo, woo, woo.
They did not know.
Which is usually has always accompanied Greatest World phenomena. So I would bet that it did happen, although I understand where you're coming from, doubting it.
I think it's better if it did happen for that very reason that I just mentioned. And you are indeed right that there are no the. Are you really mean to tell me that, if it wasn't the Greatest World, that, Asukusa wouldn't have used a jetpack or something like that?
Exactly.
Having this, like, Bear Grylls shit here, not even Bear Grylls, this point-and-click adventure, blending your items in your inventory, and then using it on the... That's what it is! She clicks on the right prompt to throw it up there. Eizouken is a point-and-click adventure game, Telltale. Or classic LucasArts.
Oh, Sierra, man, for sure, yeah.
Oh my god, I need this to happen. I want fan art of the Eizouken Club members in Day of the Tentacle.
Oh my god. It's like
that would be incredible.
It's a Wadget Eye game.
Oh my god, that's so good. But yeah, you totally know that they would have had something like a jetpack. That would have been great. So yeah, I'm inclined to believe you on that one, but I again think that serves a point. Now, again, it's not a deep or serious or laboured point, and I think that that's something that you and I need to be careful about, Doc, is that we like talking serious about things like class conflict and wealth and all that kind of stuff, but Eizouken is very light-hearted in its approach, and I think that, he needs to just go with it. Just enjoy it.
Serious.
Doesn't mean you can't take some meaning out of it, though.
Anime is serious.
Anime is serious
business. How dare you?
Which is why we were talking about it in Species Reviewers before.
And dicks.
Anime is dicks.
Yep.
Is that our next poll question? Anime is dicks.
I'm gonna do is anime serious business. That's
oh man, right. Well, that's it. The internet's exploding. I'm just gonna go and lie down a little bit. Be fine.
So my next point, I know I had it here. So for a couple weeks at least, I think we have talked about this anime and the anime industry, and also in a general sense, like when making art comes up against making a product, and it becomes a for-profit thing, and when money enters into the equation, does it compromise your art? All this sort of stuff. And I actually think this episode serves as a really nice counterpoint to people like me who were saying like, well, yeah, definitely in some sense, because like, you know, this episode is great about showing that art, your art can be a product, but it can still nourish your soul doing it.
Why not both?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it totally can. Now, is it going to every single time? I mean, I think artists in chat would easily say no. It's not like, you know, people want different things, and
sometimes I want to draw my OC, and sometimes I want to put food on the table.
Exactly.
I know these are not necessarily compatible goals for some people.
Right. You know, sometimes you have to make 50 Shades of Grey. Or no, you never have to make 50 Shades of Grey.
No one had to do that. They were no.
Is your lava lamp okay?
Yes, my lava lamp is working.
Okay,
again.
It's working again.
I hope. I don't know if you, for those of you who are listening, not here at the start. What was currently in my lava lamp, like after it probably been used a bit too much recently, looks well. It looked like Lovecraft's snot. Basically, it was not a pleasant shape, and I thought, oh god, I fucks it.
Otherworldly
thankfully, thankfully, it has been decidedly unfucks, and it looks great again. So that's good.
But not a whole ton like more to elaborate about this point. I just thought, you know, this is a really nice way to do this, as it was you know, conveyed really well that like, yes, hey, we're doing this for money, we need money, it's important that we get this money to make other things we want to make, but what is being asked of us is actually something where we could test ourselves, right? And something that we could be artistically ambitious about, and we could have like great ideas about. And you know, I'm sure, like, I mean, I've even experienced this in my job, and I don't even make art for a living, but like I'll be approaching a project, and when I first hear about it, I'll be like, oh my god,
yeah,
this thing, who cares about that? And then
many times.
And then when you hear people talk about it, like when it's presented to you in a meeting, like a pitch meeting or something, and you see it laid out on paper, and it starts to kind of join up with previous experiences you've had, and you can visualize it more. All these things are pointed out in the episode about like experience and being able to visualize outcomes. Like, you start to get these ideas, and you start to get excited about doing, like, oh, I could totally see like a way to do this that would make it better, or I get how this would work, or like I'm excited to see if the program or the platform that I'm going to put this on will be will I have to like work with it and like really kind of just jam it in there, or will it seamlessly work? Like I don't know, have you had those kind of experiences before at your job where you get into a project midway through because of people, because of the way they talk about it or seeing something about it?
It's been a while. I say with deep resignation. I have admittedly. But then again, my job is not so much artistic as it is very data driven. The problem with data is it also can be incredibly dry. That's
true. But I guess the larger point being that like you can do things that the express purpose is to pay the bills, but like you can find little pockets or even big pockets in those things that like excite you.
That happen when I've like programmed custom you know, VBA projects, for example. That's always been the most enjoyable part of my job, when I get to start really flex, like, okay, I'll put this here, and will this work? How this link into here? How do I make this? I'll not bore you Steph with the specifics, but you can see already like that kind of process there. And that also incidentally makes the hours fly by.
Yeah.
You put your head in that VBA panel there, and it's like going from Eizouken, air flying into the screen, and you come back out again. It's like finishing something like, shit, dog. Where'd the time go?
It's dark outside.
Right. So my next point, I want to talk again about how good this show is at using its visuals in a subtle way without necessarily also then playing its hand, as it does. Hey, good on it for doing so. But you remember when I talked about the Call of Duty aesthetic at the very beginning?
I do.
You know what I think that might represent?
What's that?
I think it, like, Asuka's has like been displayed thus far as nervous and anxious about meeting other people. And I think that the intent behind this whole build up to meeting the robot club for the first time is that she knows she's going to meet them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sense of nervousness
Yeah,
that
that's
she
good.
has.
Mm-hmm.
And that because it is her world, like she's
Good
got
mood.
here. And the thing is, she's now entering someone else's world for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of blending together, and she feels like a bit overwhelmed by it. Has to treat it as something to be suspicious about. That we've got these MIB kind of thing going on here with the giant footsteps. Like her imagination is filling in for her here as a kind of coping mechanism. I'm not saying it's a deep psychological trauma anxiety thing where she simply won't go there, but rather I think that it fits her character perfectly, and again builds on that element where she can be anxious or can be scared because her imagination does what human imagination often does best / worst, which is that it will fill in the gaps for you in the worst way possible, particularly if you're anxious. So I really, really like that, both in terms of just how it's funny in its own right. This old little secret agent, run, don't. Oh my God, she tripped over the power cord, and then got knocked out. That's fun in its own right, but again, it builds more character, and that's to the show's credit that it continues to do that. And again, the show has also done a really good job in priming you to pay attention for these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So good on them for doing that. I really, really liked it. And indeed, if you think about it, bookends the episode really well because then in the end, she's entered their world, if you will, but they're in hers at the end when they start collaborating.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Very good stuff. So another thing I really like about this episode is how it shows, and again, I don't think that they beat you over the head with this, like you said, but that making anime in particular is a very collective process, and that everybody needs to be like there needs to be you don't all have to agree with everything, but you gotta kind of be on the same page, right, and be of one accord and pulling in the same direction. At least is what the show seems to be trying to say, because
there's an entire business science, if you will, behind the art of project making. I've actually been trained in a little bit of it, like how to do project management, how to build a case profile, like how to do problem solving using what is called Lean Six Sigma, if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, I've heard of it, but it's been forever. I can't remember anything about it.
I'm actually a yellow belt in that, would you believe? It's the lowest ranking in it.
Okay.
I wish it was in Dan instead, but you can't get one.
Right.
But yeah, that's a whole part of it. Now, granted, you don't necessarily need that in order to make projects happen, but sometimes having an awareness that can help, and this is also why Kanamori is so vital to this.
So vital. And I guess so I actually don't think I expressed myself very clearly, because what you're talking about is important. And I think the show does address that, especially at the end. But in terms of making an anime project, just them talking about different things shows you that so many people have to be have to share a vision. When they were talking about going into the sewer, why are they doing that? Well, they need to have experiences that their imagination can draw on to try to spin into original images. They need inspiration. They need also to have some kind of shared idea about the setting. Because if they don't, it's not
just the same as well, actually, just to mention, because I get the feeling that Asuka's would never have conjured up that crab monster had she not been in that setting where they saw the pipe. Sewer network,
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yes, conceiving of that stuff, you get ideas from being out in the world, which is part of why, I think people like Miyazaki and other really older anime people will tell you, and even Western animators like Chuck Jones will say, don't just be an animation buff, go out into the world and do other things and have other hobbies. Because
this is what we said about
fresh
the
experiences
as well, how what seems mundane can suddenly be amazing if looked at differently.
Well, because if everyone has the same set of influences, after a couple of generations, you have a very sort of stale, inbred, creative pool that you're drawing on. Everyone's referenced these 100 anime over and over and
this isn't realistic.
Like
you get a bunch of Onos.
Well, and it just like becomes the same stuff without like that sort of spark that new experiences and fresh perspectives can bring, you know. But like think about like, you know, they all need to look at the setting because the setting influences movement, the movement of the characters. Like it's something that you like makes intuitive sense, but I've never thought about it before. Like just as a simple thought, like, you know, the set, like, I mean, you think about it without thinking about it, or at least I do. Like that, you know, the background people and the concept people and the character people have to be like, they have to be in clicking. Like, they have to be in sync because, like, if a character needs to do a certain kind of movement, then certain settings can't work. And if certain settings are in place, that like influences how the characters interact with the settings and move around. So like, just the amount of people again that have to like share a vision to just get anime off the ground is pretty like incredible. And like Yukinon says in chat, like it takes, you know, thousands studios. I don't know if is that true that there are a 1,000 people working on an anime project?
Probably
I think it will be
small.
I think it will be, you know, hundreds, I could believe, but or scores, but
one Masaki Yuasa.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, not Masaki Yuasa. I meant to say, God, Makoto Shinkai. Sorry. You know, funnily enough, like I'd love it if, like, I mean, we've already said, like, you know, about how this show is like, you know, promoting like, hey, go out and create anime, but that's actually already happened. Like he's done that, and look at him now. Man's making bank.
He's like the poster child of like, just do you, man, follow your dream, and you never know, fucking in 20 years you could be king shit of the world. Like Makoto Shinkai. You
could be pissing off the boomer anime creators, like you know, what was his name again? Why can I not remember the name of the guy who does Gundam? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my brain?
Tamino.
Why is my brain?
Yoshiyuki Tamino.
You could be pissing off Tamino. Yeah.
No, I hear you, Yuki. There are a lot of people. There's a lot of people in sound design and in-betweeners and outsourcing, and people do CG, people do background. Like, there's a lot of people involved. But you know, I've seen credits lists. I don't think that they're in the thousands.
And then the thing is, how many times have we talked about credit lists, including everything
maybe for a movie, maybe if you're doing.
Oh, sorry,
maybe
Zeus,
for
right? It's Oshi, not Tamino that I'm referring to.
But anyway, so what did you? I missed.
I said Tamino, but apparently it was Oshi. I don't know. I can't remember.
That said which thing? I missed it.
That said, like, you know, they were like annoyed at Makoto Shinkai's work. Why don't they get together? What's the?
Oh no, that was Yoshiyuki Tamino who said like that.
Oh,
yeah, that was him because he was talking about they were interviewing him.
Jealous.
They were. Yeah, they were interviewing him for like about his Reconquista movies. I think his Reconquista in G, the G Reco movies. And yeah, he was like, oh, you know, anybody could make a movie like that, and like referring to Shinkai. And it's like, no, it's all about the longing, but no banging.
Did they film his interview in black and white? So
it's on Anime News Network if you want to look at it. Like if you Google like Tamino Shinkai or you know, any like probably the latest interview that.
When do we get the boxing match between those two? I'd like to see that.
We should have one. There's a lot of great inter-anime feuds in terms of like creators. Like some are loving, like between Anno and Miyazaki. That's even less of a feud and more of a playful mentor-mentee relationship. But Miyazaki and Oshii will go at each other. But there's mutual respect there. Deep down, I think. I hope. He ripped Ponyo that time.
Man.
Really oh, but I don't think that there is between with Tamino for Shinkai. I think this is just he does not respect the man's work. There are a lot of grumpy anime creators. Yes, it's a great thing. I love it. I love these shitty old fucking beefs.
Give me another 5 years and I'll be that. I just won't be making anime. I'll just be grumpy and creating stuff. Right, I have one more talking point, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about realism versus fantasy. And when I say fantasy, I'm not talking as in elves and dragons and shit. I'm just talking the unreal, like the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Because beyond simply just, the actual specifics of the discussions the Robot Club have with the Eizouken, specifically Asakusa, but also Mizuzaki to a little bit more of an extent, and kind of more, focused on the money, dollar signs, that sort of thing. But beyond like the specifics of like actual design on the robot, like what this episode is also going into at length is the idea of realism versus fantasy and what cases to be made for one versus the other. Because it is very clear, even to the point where it references real world robotics from the laboratory that I can't remember the name of. There's your running thing for me, by the way. But that dog, I've seen that dog in that. Oh, it's Boston Dynamics, I think it was. Yes, there we go.
Oh, that's funny. Is that? I wonder if that's a.
No, the dog-shaped robot was from Boston Dynamics, and that fucking thing can open doors.
Oh,
like we're screwed. We are done. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't no, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton, but it is basically a velociraptor built by man. So that's great. But no, they of course mentioned that that's a real robot. And then of course you have, well, what about the JCB digger, that kind of thing. And so Ono, like, as much as I picked on him, I actually think that the show is also advocating for a kind of middle ground when it's appropriate. Because obviously you're never going to have a totally realistic robot, like, in a robot show, because then it will just be that dog robot. And, well, unless you're Boston Dynamics and you decide, hey, you know what? I'll make an anime advert for my new robot. Like, but you won't make a story out of it. It won't be that interesting or appealing. Like, they're more of a fascinating curiosity than anything to us regular people. But what I think it's trying to get across here is that realism itself can actually be a draw because it helps keeps things grounded. And I think that's really, really important. Like when we say, for example, the piston punch from Big O, like the Big O robot is complete nonsense if you think about it. But the piston punch, like, it feels very physical and very real. And that in itself, because it has that little bit of grounding behind like how it's built from mechanics, like that you can understand. So that I think is quite important. And also then with the switches and stuff, like, again, it makes it a piece of equipment we might recognize rather than something that's completely alien.
Yeah, then like, having the lady sit on all fours in front of you and you grab onto the handles. And that's all there is as far as controls. That's it. And you just link up to the shitty robo brain. Right on there.
I fucking hate you.
The worst kind of cockpit.
Did Yukinon tell you to do that in private?
He didn't. I was all
You're
me.
You're a fucking liar.
The bird emerges from
I gotta get back. I can't actually get back up now.
Oh no.
There we go. I'm better. Oh, there goes my discs. Right. Anyway, so there is that. And then of course they also say about like moving the panels around, like, it's about compromise. But yeah, realism and grittiness can actually really, really help with selling a robot show in of itself. So I do think that's also really important for, some creators to consider that sometimes, hey, you know what? Like, it's all well and good having this crazy, fantastical magic role, like, say, the Mazinger Z, for example, the olden ones. And there is a time and place for that. But just because realism doesn't mean you can't make, robots in real life, doesn't mean you can't incorporate realistic elements for artistic purpose. You can do both.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
again,
it depends on the story you want to tell, right?
Yeah. So if that's one thing that I've got to say about Eizouken in general, is that all the things it's had to say thus far about the anime production process, it's done sort of a fair bit of nuance. I mean, you've had your own concern about, like, how it portrays, like, this entire process is something to be idolized, like, hey, I'm a pro, like, staying up late at night and all that, and
abuse my body. Yeah, that wasn't true.
The rest.
Yeah, that didn't come into play this week, but yeah, no.
Indeed,
I had
part of me also
actually
then wonders if that does support your point, though, because they're taking on this anime project now, and surely it's a big deal for them to do this just for the Robot Club. It's not like, they're helping, like, do technical drawings. They're making a whole blown anime for them, and like that can't be easy. We've seen how difficult it was for the previous one. So who can say?
It'll be interesting to see.
But I do appreciate the nuance it presents, like, with all which is like realism versus, fantasy, and the perks of both. And I'm talking not just in terms of creating anime, but also like the stuff, as I say, with Asukusa, walking around the wooden the wooden floor, for example, like how, hey, imagination sometimes can be, a bad thing, but also can be very, very useful.
That's what.
So I really like that.
Yuki does point out correctly. Like, you're right. Like, it's just like a preview animation. So hopefully, like, it will be not as taxing.
So we won't get bedhead Asukusa again.
Yeah, that shouldn't be.
I would find that really funny if as ninja just dub different lines over it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be quite funny. That, I think, especially given the content.
Oh man! So you mentioned Ono. Should we talk about Ono some? I feel like we haven't really. So what's going on with him, and do you find him annoying, or do you find him relatable, or do you both?
I think he's mostly there as comic relief, but I think he does have a very fair point. Part of the reason we might grip to realism, so extensively in fiction, is because we want to truly believe that it can be real, even though it cannot. It's kind of like a contradictory view that's held in your head, like a doublethink state, if you will, where I only want the realism because I know full well it can never be real. So I can understand that from Solo, but I think mostly he serves just... And I'm okay with that, because Eizouken is arguably a comedy. And Eizouken says in chat, he's passionate about something he loves. Fair play to him. He just, unfortunately, was so passionate, almost got himself killed by Kanamori.
Listen. Not everyone who's passionate about the things that they love are, like, plotting the overthrow of our Eizouken. So, to me, like... Hang on, I'm trying to reload here. I have to reload chat, so I won't be able to look at some recent messages, because I'm trying to post poll 4. See, poll 4 : paste. There we go. Sometimes a restream chat has to reset. Anyway, I don't know, man. He seemed like that's really like super abrasive kind of nerd that in real life you'd be like super embarrassed by being around him as he's
like I said, he could host a podcast.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I respect the passion. I too, as you probably can note, I am passionate about robot anime. But,
have you ever threatened a film club though?
I have
that's
not.
Clearly that's the next level of being
passionate. I mean, as far as like his social...
Oh, that's a deep cut, Yuki. Jesus Christ. Also very topical right now as well. Damn.
Like, socially, he's got a ways to go. He's got to step his game up. And look, not all the ladies of the Eizouken are, social titans. But Asakusa, I don't know, I just find, like, crippling anxiety way more relatable and less annoying than, like, I'm going to scream in your face and snot all over you about how great robots are.
I think for Asuku's, like, the way she sees it is that she doesn't really have, or hasn't until recently had, anyone to really nerd out about stuff with. And so now that she can, she does it, but she does it with that person, as opposed to Ono, who, well, he left his filter at home, in his spare pants, like 10 years ago.
Maybe it's just a function of how I relate to guys versus girls as well, because, like, Asakusa does, like, you remember that part in the first episode where she's just vomiting words all over Kanamori? It's like just rattling off like details and everything, and she's just like, Asakusa-chi, we have to chill. Let's go watch the movie, okay? We'll be cool. So yeah, I mean, she can do that too.
You gotta know your audience.
Yeah, I guess it just may be a personal thing for me. But the rest of the robot club seemed cool.
Cesar is correct though that the when the Eizouken first turned up, they did kind of go in a bit hard on certain elements of the robot. Like, oh, it's only 3 feet tall, like, what? This is barely big enough to fight a giraffe. Incidentally, by the way, one of the most amazing insert lines in the concept art for the crab pistol, the pistol crab, is can kill an African elephant instantly or something. I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's a thing.
The crab tool is amazing. By the way, you all should Google pistol shrimp videos. Like,
Yes.
if you have not seen the Pistol Shrimp, because they're amazing. Like, it's some real life fucking ridiculous. Like, the first comment under one of the Pistol Shrimp videos that I sent you, Shadon, was Fist of the North Shrimp. It's true. It's so true. That, like, the camera has to be going at like 10,000 frames a second to capture the flash of light, heat, and like the vacuum created by the punch of that thing.
Incredible. I love
Such
it.
a cool animal. I got wrapped up in watching animal docs again this weekend. It's just, nature docs are like my hidden secret passion. I love animals. I love animals. I should go work at a zoo or something, because they're so fascinating to me. So yeah, Ono, like, I think ultimately he gets to this place where he's a fun character. You know what I mean? Like, now that they're all working together, his passion, it's like fun that he's really into it. But when in the beginning, I was kind of
maybe that's a lesson from the show in it itself, that you have to find your audience or know when it's truly start laying that out there.
Well, it's like they say, like Kanamori says, like, hey, you have to have people to appreciate your work. I have to put it out in the light of day, as they crawl deeper and deeper into a dark sewer away from all sources of light. I found a very funny juxtaposition.
Absolutely. All right, I'm all talks out anyway. Have you got...
Couple things. So the Pistol Shrimps I mentioned, and I just talked about that funny juxtaposition that I was going to bring up. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to talk about, and every episode in the show does this, so it's not like a brand new thing. But I just love that each and every episode it highlights this is animation right here. This is an anime, and this is our medium of choice, and here's why. Because of the amazing things that you can do in animation. I just love the fact that every week at some point, whether it's the greatest world or whether it's something different, because Mizusaki was doing this too, saying like, oh, we could blow that up, and then it actually animates blowing up. Like, I love that imagination kind of coming to life on screen, that like physical manifestation of characters' emotions and thoughts, and it helps us like relate to them. It's really fun. It adds to the charm of the show. It emphasizes like the core message of the show, which is the animation is incredible. I love that they're doing it, and I hope that I know they will continue to do it. That's probably going to be what we're all going to walk away from, with like the show is, you know what, this show made me, I mean, most people that watch probably already know, but it's like it re-emphasized to me how incredible animation is.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, then. I suppose that means it's time for us to start closing out. Doc, could poll to see how they're looking right now.
Yep. Let me do the old refresh here, so that I can refresh the thread. And it's been a little slow, but here we go. All right, our polls for this week. Here's where we stand now. And remember, you can go to Twitter at Warui Deshou, WARUI on Twitter. And you can vote in these for the next week. Change the results by next episode. I believe in you. Did Asakusa's rescuing the Eizouken from the sewer really happen? At the moment, 77% say yep, 22% say nah, greatest world stuff going on there. Poll 2, is there anything Kanamori can't do? Sadly, this vote is split 60-40. Nothing, 60% is winning. Solve the climate crisis is at 40%. And that's like darkly comedic.
Yeah.
Not even Kanamori can unfuck the planet. Poll 3. Do you need the juice? 100% say yes. Poll 4.
You're all very thirsty. Go sort that.
I need the juice. Who is actually more annoying? Eizouken or the Robot Club? It's early days, but Robot Club has it with 100% so far. And will anyone vote for the Eizouken? No, I don't think so, but we'll see. I think that the message is they're gonna like reply and say like, I'm voting for the Robot Club, but I don't think that they're very annoying. I just think the Eizouken is not annoying in the least, so I have to vote Robot Club by default. And you haven't realized I'm making you do that. That's the manipulative science of polls at work. That's the poll, Shadon. That's where we are.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Doc. Okay, everyone. I suppose we'll close.
I'm gonna add a fifth poll, by the way. It's not up yet, but look for the fifth poll. It's gonna be: do you fear the pistol shrimp?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that one.
Yes, we do.
All right. So, for me, I still really like this episode, but I think that I kind of waver a little bit on how much I like it, just as I thought. Could we continue on, from the momentum of the previous one, have them be like, on the afterglow of getting the budget approved and then, continuing on to their next projects. But this episode does indeed serve its own purposes, and I really, really enjoyed the ideas it put across, about collaboration and also the new challenge of trying to appease and work with an outgroup. But I think that because it doesn't quite have the momentum following through from those previous episodes, it didn't quite hit as strongly with me, but I still really liked it. So in the end, I am going to give this episode 4.25 glow-in-the-dark sneakers out of 5.
Wow. 4.25.
That's still pretty good.
Wow.
That's still pretty good.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
That's an 85%. That means it's an okay game on Metacritic.
Sure. God damn you. Poll 5 is up now. How do I rate this episode, buddy? Well, to me, so here is where we differ, is that like I think episodes 1 and 4 were like the best ones.
Oh, I agree. I actually do agree with you on that.
Okay, but I think episodes 2 and 3 were like of a piece with this one in terms of quality.
Yeah.
So I am going to go a little bit higher than you. I'm going to go 4.5 because I think that's probably what I gave episode 3. And I think this one is right there. And like what it may lack in terms of the like continuing story that you were wanting, for me, like it makes up for in the robotage. which I love. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one 4.5 robo drills out of 5.
That'll do then. All right then. And come on, Grizzly. You know that I've always hated my bones off it. He's saying, chat, I can't believe Shane hates Eizouken now. I'm like, now, come on, get with the times, bro. Hate it since the beginning. Just all a facade. Just peels away. No, I fucking love this show. I'm not going to lie. And I'm still very curious to see if anything will better it this year thus far. I mean, we've got some good stuff coming up later on, but it's going to be a tough one. I mean, Masaki Yuasa from all it down again at the start of the year. Who'd have thought, hey?
It's what he likes to do.
Man's making it into a career. What can I say? All right. But anyway, thank you all very much for joining us this fine evening to talk about Eizouken number 5. I hope you've all got something out of it. We will be back next week, of course, to cover Eizouken number 6. And Jesus Christ, the fact I'm even saying Eizouken 6 makes me feel a little sick just because it's halfway done at that point.
Oh.
When you think of it like that, is that not the worst feeling?
Well, there is a manga, but is it? I don't know the situation with how long it is or if it's still going or what. It'll get released over here though.
Well, I'm getting a double Yuasa fix of Eizouken. Ride Your Wave. Yeah. That's happening 2 weeks today, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting.
Very exciting.
All right. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this podcast, just take the opportunity to engage with us if you can, if you want to do so. Otherwise, feel free to, like, subscribe, follow, share the usual stuff on whatever channel you may be checking this out on, wherever you may be getting this podcast from. It always helps. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. You can find Doc on Twitter at
The Subtle Doctor.
Again, he's above me, but I'm just pointing over there geographically. I'm being accurate to the geography of the planet.
It's important.
He's not in space as much as he wishes he was. Yeah, what are you doing your guest spot on the International Space Station, Doc?
Well, check our Twitter at Warui Deshou for updates.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot Doc into space against his will. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to that.
Very excited.
Just see Doc's face float from right to left across the camera. Help me!
I didn't know I'd be filming in 0G. That's a little bit of a. That's a. That's a risk.
What would you hate more, filming in 0G or covering?
I'm sorry, covering what? I missed it.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that then. Okay. I'm not even going to tell you. You can listen to this later and catch that little nugget. I know that you've got like the roulette wheel of answers to what awful piece of shit I just mentioned going through your head. So I'll leave that for you to decide. Oh boy. So until next time, when we finally shoot Doc into space, everyone, I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you very much again for joining us. And much as he will be when he finally gets shot up there, we're just going to say, embrace each other, everyone, to the end of the universe. Good night.
Good night.